I think what we see today is the worst ever humanitarian crisis, but it is not any crisis. It's a man-made crisis. It's a crisis caused by the Israeli aggressive, purposeful, intentional effort to commit genocide against the Palestinian people. The starvation that they have caused in Gaza is part of their effort to ethnically cleanse Palestinians and to conduct genocide against Palestinians. And all the media outlets that had to cover up for that or denied it or ignored it now are forced to show the reality and the picture because it is so powerful, so strong, and nobody could block the social media, which got the information out. Even the American president, Mr. Trump, who denied that there was starvation in Gaza, just admitted in Edinburgh, in Britain, that there is starvation, and he said that when he saw the images on TV, he had to admit that there is starvation and the children of Gaza are suffering. So, in my opinion, what you see is awful. Let me give you a few figures. First of all, we are talking about up till now 88 children who died of starvation. The total number of people who died from starvation is more than 120, but about 200,000 children, 200,000 are on the edge of death now because of the terrible malnutrition caused by this terrible starvation. And in addition to that, we have at least 1,150 people who died while they were trying to get the so-called humanitarian aid from the centers that were created by the Americans. And more than 6,500 were shot and injured, and many of them were injured terribly that they will end up with a disability for the rest of their lives. Also, while they were trying to get this humanitarian aid. All the Israeli claims that they are letting in support are false and misleading. What they let in is very small number, not more than few tens of trucks, and these trucks didn't even get to the people who need them, because the Israelis allow these gangs that collaborate with them to steal the aid. And when they throw something from air, it's also horrible, because yesterday 11 people were injured because of these things that were thrown from air. And even that people cannot get to, because what was thrown on Gaza yesterday was only in Israeli controlled areas, and people have the risk of being shot if they get there. It's a horrible situation, and more than that, people are killed not only by bombardment, but by starvation. People are dying also because of diseases. In my opinion, Israel is conducting a biological warfare on the people. Our medical teams from Medical Relief report to us that we already have 117,000 cases of infectious hepatitis because of lack of clean water, depressed immunity, etc. But more than that, for 148 days now, Israel is not allowing vaccines for children to get in, which means we are at the risk of having an outbreak of very serious infections or epidemics like poliomyelitis that we have eradicated 30 years ago, or measles or diphtheria, or even meningitis. It's a very dangerous situation. This is part of the genocide campaign that Israel is conducting. And what we need is not just statements or condemnations. What we need is really a strong campaign of imposing sanctions on Israel to force it to stop. No, there is no international pressure, seriously. I mean, what you have is public pressure. What you have is grassroots demonstrations. The public is wonderful. They're doing everything they can to pressure their governments. But if you look at Western countries, I'm not talking about, of course, South Africa, Colombia, or Spain even. I'm talking about the majority of Western countries, including Germany and Britain. They've been complicit with these crimes. And they still continue to supply Israel with the bombs that they are throwing on us, on our people. And Germany is not taking a single action against what Israel is doing. And in that sense, I think it is very important to mention that those who were responsible for the genocide and Holocaust against Jewish people in the Second World War, uh, they could do all of that mainly because of the cowardness of many politicians in the West who stayed silent about that persecution of Jewish people. But the same cowardness is what we see today also in Germany and in many Western governments and countries where this cowardness is allowing Israel to commit another Holocaust against the Palestinian people. I mean, we are the victims like the Jewish people who were the victims of that Holocaust at that time. And that's something that many Western leaders don't see because there is a lot of deep internal racism that does not see Palestinians as equal human beings. So if you ask me about government's pressures, no, it's still very weak, very little. And what we need is really serious actions, including sanctions. They should do at least to Israel, at least maybe half of what they've done to Russia, or one third of what they have done to Russia. In the case of Russia, they imposed 11,000 sanctions in 2 months, while in our case, not a single sanction on Israel. After 77 years of oppression, occupation, displacement, and ethnic cleansing. No, Mr. Rubio is not telling the truth. We are not close to the ceasefire because Israel is continuing its bombardment and the killing. And because the United States is not pressuring Israel to accept a ceasefire agreement. And you are absolutely right. This war has to stop. Without stopping the war, the suffering will not end. We need the war to stop. We need the humanitarian supply to get in. We need people to be allowed to go back to the places they lived in and to start reconstructing this horrible destruction. So, no, I am worried that the war is going to continue because Netanyahu is playing games and the United States is supporting him. About Hamas surrendering, even if Hamas surrenders tomorrow, do you think the Israeli army will stop? They are still talking about concentrating everybody in a very little area and then forcing them out of Gaza in an act of ethnic cleansing. What Israel is planning is the largest ever in human history concentration camp that is worse than the concentration camps that were used in the Second World War by the Nazi Germans. So, no, Israel has not given up, and they continue to speak about ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. The way forward has to start with immediate enforcement of ceasefire on Israel. United States can do that. European countries can do that by threatening Israel with sanctions. And then after the ceasefire is there and supplies of humanitarian material gets in, then we can talk about finding a way out of the situation. But there can be no peace as long as one side is oppressing the other, occupying the other, displacing the other, and suffocating the other. United States is against that conference, and they criticized France for saying that they might recognize Palestine. I think the recognition of Palestine is useful, but it has to be totally unconditional. Nobody can impose conditions on us on this matter. We already have 149 countries recognizing Palestine. France recognition is useful because it means that France is supporting our right of self-determination. While Israel has passed a law in the Israeli Knesset which says that the right of self-determination on the land of historic Palestine is exclusive for Jewish people. So symbolically, it's an important act, but in reality, the occupation will not end unless Palestinians continue to struggle for their rights and for their freedom, and unless the world initiates what it did to the South African apartheid system at the time, which is a whole campaign of boycott, divestment, sanctions. Pakistan is a friendly country. Pakistan has been very friendly and supportive of Palestinian rights, which we appreciate so much. Pakistan showed very unique position and very courageous position during the Israeli attack on Iran, by the way, and the American attack on Iran. So I hope that Pakistan can play a larger role in the future. But we appreciate the stand of the Pakistani people. I know I met so many of them, and I know how enthusiastic they are to the Palestinian cause and how supportive they are. So we just have much appreciation for what they do.